Welcome to Native Bidaské, Native News Online's weekly spotlight on the people making news and leading change in Indian country.
Welcome to another edition of Native Bidaské. I'm Levi Rickert, your host. Next month, on April 8th, a total solar eclipse will cross North America. A total solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the sun and Earth, completely blocking the face of the sun. The sky will darken as if it were dawn or dusk. Joining us today is Erin Fehr, a historian who is Yupik, and she is the assistant director and archivist at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock's Sequoyah National Research Center. She has done extensive studying on eclipses and the mythology that several Native American tribes have as it relates to eclipse, what they think about them. So we're honored to have Erin, and Erin, you must be getting excited with this eclipse coming up. Welcome to Native Bidaské.
Thank you, Levi. Thank you for having me. Yes, it's really exciting. And I am in Little Rock, Arkansas. And so we are in the path of totality. And people are kind of going crazy around here with the eclipse mania. And so I was approached, I don't know, like back in the fall, asking if I would speak on the topic. And to be honest, 6 months ago, I couldn't have told you a thing about Native mythology and eclipses. And I just thought, this is a really cool opportunity to learn something both for myself and to help educate the public. And so I've enjoyed doing the research.
Well, that is exciting. I'm excited for it. And before this is all over, we want to talk about the dangers of looking at it without protective lenses. But before we get into all that, I just, before the eclipse is going to happen on April 8th, and you came to my attention because you are scheduled to give 2 presentations on the topic, and one of which is storytelling, Native Americans and the eclipse. First, tell us, how did you become interested in this topic? Was it the fact that people prompted you?
Well, as a kid, I believe it was 1994 when there was a partial solar eclipse that passed Arkansas. And I was about 11 at the time. And I remember borrowing a farmer's welder's mask to look up at the sun. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And so when all of the eclipse mania started a couple of years ago, talking about it passing through Arkansas for totality, I was really excited. And because of where I work at the Sequoyah National Research Center, I became interested in looking at it from a different perspective. And from a Native perspective, and looking to see what the different tribes viewed eclipses as, if they had particular traditions or ceremonies surrounding it. And I just kind of dove right in.
Well, that's exciting. And I understand, and I've done a little research myself, and I want to say last fall when there was a partial eclipse, I did some research on it, and I understand that the Navajo consider the time of the eclipse a very, very sacred time, quiet time. Can you talk about what you know about it, and what do Navajo families do during the eclipse?
Right. Well, you're very right. They do consider an eclipse to be a sacred time, and they believe that it is a time to go indoors, to not look at the eclipse, even with eclipse glasses or anything, which is the only way you should view an eclipse. And they believe you should sit inside in quiet meditation, reflection, kind of use it as a way to look over what's going on in your life. Do you need to make changes? And they really view it as once the eclipse is over. Let me back up. During the eclipse, they do not eat or drink. And like I said, they do like to be in quiet. And so they almost treat it when the eclipse is over as a rebirth or a renewal. And many of them make resolutions as if it was like a new year, to like move forward, and are there changes that need to be made in their lives and that kind of thing.
That's interesting because all of us live at such a fast-paced lifestyle that seldom do any one of us take time to really slow down long enough to really reflect, meditate, think about the future, and maybe changes, as you said, maybe should take place in lives. So I think it's so interesting that it's a good time. And I would think that it happens across generations of Navajo.
Yes, my understanding is that that tradition of staying indoors is still practiced today. Although, with modern ways, sometimes we change our traditions. And so there are some families that will choose to look at the eclipse or be outdoors, but traditionally they would stay inside.
Mm-hmm. Now, then I also understand that some of the earliest documentation of how like the Pueblo people observed the eclipse. Can you talk about that? How you discovered what you found out as a historian?
Right. So, as we all know, many tribes across the United States and Canada were stargazers and still are. And so, particularly in the Southwest, and I've had conversations trying to decide why that is, particularly in the Southwest and in the western part of the United States. It seems to be more so. And I think I've come to the conclusion that maybe they just have a better view of the sky than we do, where we grow up with lots of trees. But based on that long history of stargazing, there is a petroglyph that can be found in Chaco Canyon in Arizona that's called Rock of the Sun. And it portrays a petroglyph of a sun with the corona of the sun coming out from it. It's beautiful. And so, as scientists do, they decided to see if they could trace the date. And they believe, based on carbon dating and based on historical eclipse paths, that this was depicting the July 11th eclipse of 1097. And as far as to my knowledge, it is the earliest documentation by Native people of a solar eclipse.
That is downright incredible. The idea that goes back, what did you say, 1097? That's
yes. I mean, that's just insane to think about. Over 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, almost 1,400 years ago. That is just, yeah. And history is such a beautiful thing, and I hope that petroglyph is well preserved, right? Hopefully,
absolutely, yes.
National Park Service or somebody, so that it never will be destroyed.
Yes, I can't remember who is in charge of taking care of it, but as far as I know, it is still in perfect condition today.
That is remarkable. And then I understand that the Iroquois actually have some of their historic their history is tied to the eclipse. Can you talk about that?
Right. So, as we all know, the Iroquois Confederacy, Haudenosaunee Confederacy, dates or predates the United States, and that the United States, got the idea of a constitution and democracy from the Haudenosaunee people. And they have the Hiawatha Belt that depicts this forming of the Confederacy. And historians believe that the Haudenosaunee Confederacy can be dated back to August 22nd, 1142, to the time of a solar eclipse, because there are accounts that say an eclipse happened at the time of this Confederacy forming. And based on maps of historic eclipse paths, it passed over what is now modern day Victor, New York, which is where this meeting took place in 1142, which is just incredible.
That is incredible history. And talk about some other belief systems around eclipse within other native tribes. Can you talk about some more?
Sure. We're going to bring it closer to modern day. So in 1806, Tenskwatawa, the Shawnee prophet, was having a dispute with then Indiana Governor William Henry Harrison. And Harrison did not like him at all and did not like the fact that he was amassing this following of people. And Harrison was mad at him, and he gave him this challenge, if you will. And I am going to read it because I want to get the words right.
Okay.
But he says, if he really is a prophet, ask him to cause the sun to stand still, the moon to alter its course, the rivers to cease to flow, or the dead to rise from their graves. If he does these things, you may believe that he has been sent from God. So Tenskwatawa responded to this challenge, and he told Governor William Henry Harrison, he said, in 50 days' time, the sun will stand still and there will be a solar eclipse. Well, on June 16th, 1806, there was a solar eclipse.
That
backfired on Harrison because it honestly made Native people follow the Shawnee prophet even more because of that.
That sounds incredible, because that's one of those tidbits of history most people don't know. I have never heard that. That's an amazing story. Thank you for saying it.
Oh, you're welcome.
He did not bring anybody back from the dead, though, right?
As far as I know, he did not.
No, that is not. Now, tell me this: where will you be on the day of the eclipse? Can you be able to view it? And what time of the day will it happen, so that our viewers kind of get a feel for this? And
well, it's going to be in the middle of the day. So for us here in Little Rock, it's going to now you put me on the spot. I didn't look up the exact times.
No,
but it's going to start around 12:30 and end about 2-ish or 2:30. And for us, totality, I think, is about 2.5 minutes, and it begins at 1:51 or thereabouts. Okay. So I will be in Little Rock. I've already decided that I'm not going to fight the traffic to go to work because they have predicted that 1.5 million people are going to be coming to the state of Arkansas this coming up weekend or next weekend.
Well, I think that the hotels and the restaurant people, tourism industry is going to love that. So that's great.
Yes. I saw a prediction just the other day that they are expecting Arkansas to have a $100 million surplus just from this event. It's kind of insane for just like a weekend.
Well, that's downright incredible. And I'm sure the Arkansas economy will enjoy that. That's for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Hopefully that will be funneled into the education system.
And I'm Potawatomi. I don't know of any of our belief systems. What about the Yupik? Do you have any particular among your tribe?
I searched for them, and I actually did not find any specific references, except I do believe that a long time ago, like I don't think it's still practiced today, but I do think at one point you weren't supposed to go outside to look at it. But to my knowledge, that's not practiced today.
Yeah, and let's talk about the common sense though, so that people don't injure their eyes. What can you tell us in terms of where you get the glasses? What type of protection should you use that day for your eyes, so that you don't want to look at it directly? You can hurt.
No, absolutely not. You do want to get eclipse glasses. and you can find them really everywhere, but you want to make sure that they have the rating. And off the top of my head, I can't remember what that rating is called, but you do want to make sure you have the special glasses. Around here, I mean, they are literally everywhere. Like the public libraries are giving them away. I'm going to a symphony concert next weekend, and they're giving them away. So I would imagine that if you are in the path of totality, they will be easy to find. I will say you can also order them online. There are plenty to be found.
And yes, and this is showing on Friday the 29th of March, so people will have time to react to that. So that's great.
Yes.
Hey, tell us about your research center there at the University of Arkansas.
Well, we are the Sequoyah National Research Center, and we are the world's largest collection of Native American newspapers and periodicals. And so we actually celebrated our 40th anniversary last year. We are almost the same age as NAJA, or sorry, I should say IJA, Indigenous Journalists Association.
Yes.
And we have purpose to collect contemporary Native materials because, as we all know, most people think of Native people as being in the past, and our archive is really set up to show what is happening in the recent past and today. We do have things that relate to historic events, like for instance, Indian removal, Trail of Tears. Arkansas played a big part in that. And we have an exhibit that's available online called Journey of Survival that maps the removal routes that the five so-called civilized tribes traveled from the southeast to Oklahoma. Well, and we've got lots of other things, so we'd love to talk more about it.
I find it very interesting that you have the largest collection of the Native American periodicals. Now, I think you're talking about print, but tell me this:
yes.
Native News Online, we are only online. Are you putting us in the archives as well at that digital news? Or
I wish. Unfortunately, we do.
Somebody's going to have to write a grant.
We probably should. Yes. We just aren't set up to have a digital archive because, I mean, you and Indian Country Today, and there are lots of tribes that have now switched to mostly online. And unfortunately, we just aren't set up for that. We would like to work towards that, but it's just not happening right now.
And because what I like about what you're doing is it really is the preservation of history. And we at Native News Online, we like to say it's time for us to tell our side of the story, right? It's
absolutely.
We haven't always been real happy with how the other side told our story, so it's incumbent on us. So I appreciate what you're doing, but seriously, maybe some foundation out there will say, hey, it's time to get with it and help you guys out with a grant to start recording that and archiving it.
Absolutely. I am definitely open to that. So maybe we'll have to look for some money somewhere.
Aaron, not that we need another crusade, right? There's so many.
Well, I feel like that one.
Country, so many other issues, but yeah, I appreciate what you're doing though.
Yeah.
I love that preservation of history because I know a lot of times when I'm researching, I'll go back and because you get the account.
Right.
And I say it this way, like how we told the story of Standing Rock in recent history versus how the mainstream media told it. It was a little different because we were there and we I like to say we tell the Native perspective at Native News Online, and I think that's what kind of sets us apart. It's basically the same, facts are facts. However, sometimes you have to put in that Native perspective to keep it honest. How's that? So.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, going back to the eclipse with Native perspectives, one of the things that I found really interesting about this is how some are very similar, like with the myths that they tell. For instance, the Cherokee tell a story about a frog swallowing the sun, and so they have to convince it to like spit the sun out, and so they're shooting guns in the air and shaking rattles and hitting on pots and pans until the frog spits the sun out. Well, then you can go to their neighbors, the Choctaws, and they have a very similar story, but instead of a frog, it is a black squirrel.
Wow.
And they do the same thing to try to get the black squirrel to, in this instance, he's actually biting the sun, because when you see an eclipse, it has a piece of it taken out of the sun until it's all swallowed up. And so I think it's so interesting that while there are today 574 federally recognized tribes, we have similarities, but we also have differences too.
That's a great point, because just geographically, we will be different, right? You wouldn't expect somebody in Seminole Nation in South Florida to wear what the Alaskan natives are wearing up in Alaska, that's for sure. But
right.
And for all those who think we are a monolith, yeah, Erin said it right. We do have our own cultures and traditions, even as Native people. Yes. Anything else you want to talk about, Erin? I mean, while we have you on, I really appreciate you coming on, and we got you at short notice, but I really do appreciate it. So anything else you want to say about the eclipse?
Well, I just think that if you have the opportunity to see it, and especially if you're in the path of totality, I do encourage you to go outside using protective glasses. And I did forget to mention that if you take a picture with your phone, you do need a special filter, because you don't want to mess up the lens on your phone or even camera.
Right. But I think that's important. I'm glad you said that, because
yes, I know.
Yeah. Wow.
A lot of people don't realize it. And so I just think it's going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity for many people. And it'll be the first time that I will experience it. So
when would you say, when are they predicting another one will occur? Like another 50 years or 80 years? When will that
for Arkansas, we actually have another one in 2044. So okay. 20 years. 20 years. But then I think after that, it's many, many years. Wow. And there might be some at other parts of the U.S., but for us specifically, we'll have another chance in 20 years. And now everybody's really nervous about the weather.
Especially the restaurant and hotel industry. No,
yes. Well, do you know, I actually read an article earlier this week about a lady who has hotel rooms in 3 states. She's like, I am going to see it. I mean, people get crazy. To be honest, if I wasn't in the path of totality and it was like, I don't know, far away, I don't know that I would travel, but a lot of people are.
So how before I let you go, how many, what's the span of this then? Like I'm in Michigan, will I be able to see it?
I actually don't think it hits Michigan. So It kind of goes up from Texas through Arkansas, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, and it does hit Maine. It's kind of, but I don't.
Out of Mexico on a northeast track, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
Now you will be able to see some of it. Okay. You will be able to see the partial eclipse. I don't know what the percentage is, but you mentioned the eclipse last fall, and let's see. I think we were about 60% here. And so I did go out and look at it, and it was really cool. And I could tell it was starting to get a little darker. It wasn't dark, even at 60%, but I mean, you could definitely tell. So I think it'll be cool, even if it's not total.
What you said earlier, basically the last 2 hours, right? Thereabouts.
Yes.
Yeah. That is so interesting. Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully I'll be able to capture some of it in Michigan. And I know I have some travel right around that time. I have to look at my calendar where I'm going to be. But
Maybe you'll be in the path of totality.
perhaps. Well, listen, Erin, thank you so much, Chimigwich, for coming on Native Bidaské. Hope to have you back again. And to our viewers, if you are in the pathway of the eclipse on April 8th, please take the precautions necessary to protect your eyes and, as Erin said, your camera, so that you're not destroying your $1,000 cell phone camera. So come back next week for another edition of Native Bidaské. In the meantime, take care of your families and hug your grandmas and aunties. So Chimigwich, we'll see you next week.
Koyana, thank you.
If you appreciate what we do here at Native News Online, we invite you to donate to support our continued work covering Indian country. You can scan this code with your smartphone or go to the link located below this video to donate today. We greatly appreciate your support. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And be sure to scan this code or go to the link below to subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you for joining us today, and please be sure to join us again next week for another episode of Native Bidaské. Chimigwech.